Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen.
Good afternoon, sir.
So,
My dear comparativists, I believe you are all doing well. Great. So this week, our topic is democratic backsliding. This is our this topic, and it is on democratic backsliding. Now, there is a Facebook post made by a renowned educationist who sometimes comments on social or policy issues. Sophia Sari of the African Education Watch. He made a post on Facebook, and I want someone to read it. It's here. Can you see my cursor? I made a screenshot, and it's here. I want someone to read the Facebook post for me. Yes. Yes, Beauty.
Okay. Ghana is suffering from acute democratic backsliding into brackets ADB.
Ghana is suffering from acute democratic backsliding. This post was made some 2 years ago. And since it was a Facebook post, many people will read it, and then you see somewhere being given a laughing emoji. People will read it in its ordinary meaning. Others will just make fun of it. But as scholars of comparative politics, we see more to what is just written. We look at it from its conceptual and then empirical status, whether indeed Ghana has been going through democratic backsliding. Democratic backsliding. He made that comment. And as scholars of political science or comparative politics, I mean, when I came across that post, it made me think aloud. Okay, think aloud. You also remember, and when you look at the image here, look at these European states. This is Poland for you. You have Poland. I have Beauty. What was the second one?
Please, I can't see.
Yeah, you have Poland, you have Hungary, you have Turkey, Serbia. Now, track from 2012 up to 2022. You can see that they are all declining. Look at how the lines are tilting. So let's say here, if you were 9, maybe you are moving, downwards. Okay. That is the trend globally. Many countries have been witnessing backsliding in terms of their democracy. But last week, when we were looking at comparing democracies, from the democracy index, the scores, we did a cross-time analysis of Ghana. Do you remember? Hello? We did a cross-time analysis of Ghana, and you saw that the democracy index for Ghana has been reducing since 2015. Okay, has been reducing gradually. So when I came across this Facebook post, I paused and pondered over it because that was a fact. He was speaking on Facebook. But many people will just think that it is just, the normal politics that people will be writing on Facebook. But this was a fact, my dear friends. Today, we are looking at democratic backsliding. I shared a short video with the course rep for you to go through and prepare before the day's class. So I believe you have all gone through the clip. What is democratic backsliding? When you hear it, what comes to mind? And what are the key elements? So my dear friends, you see, this topic is not traditionally in the textbooks. It's a more recent phenomenon. And so in most of the classic comparative politics textbooks, you might not, or you may not come across democratic backsliding. It's a recent phenomenon which has gained attention of comparativists. For that matter, since the globe have been witnessing backsliding since 2010, okay, there has been a general recession or erosion, democratic quality. And so most conferences on political science, the theme will be on democratic erosion, democratic backsliding, for scholars to come and present papers, present their research, which are in that field or area. So I received such an offer as a comparativist. There was a special issue, journal publication. So I saw the call for papers, and then we wrote on Ghana's situation. So I want Beauty read the title of this article, which I will share on Sakai. This will be your main text for this topic, this lecture 6. Beauty, read the title.
Okay, sir. Democratic backsliding and public administration, the experience of Ghana.
Okay, and this was published last year, 2025. It's a more recent article on democratic backsliding. Whether or not Ghana is experiencing backsliding, you will see from this work. This work combines the elements of democratic backsliding. It combines the empirical data from the democracy index, and then it adds more empirical examples from the Ghanaian situation, more details. Since you are aware that comparative politics, we look at internal happenings, okay? Internal happenings that give rise to the things we see. So if Ghana is, if the data or the democracy index is telling you that Ghana's numbers or scores have been reducing over time, comparativists will ask, what are the things happening in the country giving rise to this, declining figures in terms of the democracy index? And this article does justice to such a peculiar question. All right, my dear friends, this is the shortest topic for this course, which we are learning this semester. For this particular topic, it will not span between 2 weeks. It is just for this session, and then we are done. We don't have to talk much. We just have to note what we mean by democratic backsliding and also know the elements. I will introduce 2 authorities on backsliding. Each of them provides a framework or a lens for us to ascertain or for us to know whether or not a country is going through democratic backsliding. Once we are done with these two authorities, the rest are just empirical examples of widespread democratic backsliding globally. So we look at some country examples, and then we are good to go. Any question for me, my dear friends? Otherwise, we proceed. Have you come across this framework here? Have you come across it before? Hello?
No.
This framework here, have you seen it before?
Yes, it's like you've taught us.
Yes,
Yes.
dog. Yes, dog.
Yes, where did you see it? Or where did you come across this one?
Democratization.
Democratization. Well, say something else. Where did you find this image? Because I copied it from somewhere. Where did we come across it last week? Yes, Michelle.
The EUI. Sorry.
Michelle, Asmani, unmute your microphone, please. Asmani, unmute.
Regimes of the world.
Fantastic. Regimes of the world. So if in exams I bring this word framework and I ask you, you should be able to write something. So the regimes of the world, which of the three data sets is associated with the regimes of the world? Yes. Beauty is associated with which of them? Hello. VDEM. Good. Thank you, Samuel. So if I put Michelle and Samuel together, 100%. So in the exam, put the two together and you get your full score. This is associated with the VDEM. Okay, and this is regimes of the world. All right, let's proceed. So we mentioned that if a country is a liberal democracy, and let's say they fall. Last week we mentioned one country which has fallen from liberal democracy to electoral democracy. Which country is that? Yes, which country is that?
The US.
The US. Good. That the US has lost its status as liberal democracy and has fallen to electoral autocracy. But it is still within the democracy zone. Okay. Now, once that happens, it means their democratic or credential is declining. Okay, is declining. All right. So all the movement from right to left is autocratization. But if liberal democracy falls electoral democracy, we call it democratic backsliding. Okay, that is the more technical word given to it. Now here, this is also the regimes of the world. Once you see these regimes of the world associated with the VDEM varieties of democracy. Now, if a liberal democracy like the US falls to electoral democracy, we call that movement democratic erosion. Democratic erosion or democratic backsliding. Now, when we talk of erosion, just cast your mind to your primary school, junior high. What is erosion? Yes, what is erosion?
It's the washing away of the topsoil.
Washing away of the topsoil. Okay, good. But something is missing. Chip in something. There's an adjective that should be inserted. Come again.
The process.
No, so something is missing.
The gradual wash away. The gradual.
Thank you, Beauty. The gradual, and I like that adjective, gradual. The gradual washing away. Okay, so the gradual washing away. In democratic backsliding, it occurs in a more gradual manner. So that even if you don't take care, you will not witness it. It's a silent process. It is an unassuming process. You need to be very, very critical. You need to put on your comparative lens before you can really put the pieces together and reason out that indeed there is what backsliding, what's happening. So democratic erosion or democratic backsliding usually involves gradual erosion, gradual reduction in democratic quality. Now, from the video that I made you go through, what is backsliding?
So stay.
Yes.
The video, it says that democratic backsliding is a phenomenon where states recede on their democratic credentials.
Okay, states what?
States recede on their democratic credentials.
Credentials. Okay, good. Any other view? So when states rescind or decline in terms of their democratic credentials or qualities, we call it democratic backsliding. There is a global trend of backsliding, which has become increasingly evident since 2010. The number of countries declined in democracy has significantly increased. The number of countries whose democracies are declining year in, year out, the number is increasing steadily. It is an erosion of the global share of democracy. We have been witnessing erosion of the global share of democracy. This is not what endemic to one particular country, but then there's what erosion to the global share of democracy. And then when you read the recent VDM report, you witness some of these statistics. And this occurs in the so-called consolidated democracies as well as the new democracies. Whether old or new democracies, they are all facing this. But then the new democracies are more susceptible, or they are more prone to backsliding. As scholars of comparative politics, our interest here is to examine why democracy backslides and how democracies also backslide. Since in the first week of lectures, we mentioned that comparativists, we are concerned with some critical questions, such as who, how, why, what. Let's look at some authoritative definitions. Democratic backsliding, my dear friends, involves a subtle, incremental erosion to three institutional predicates of democracy happening concurrently: competitive elections, rights of political speech and association, and the administrative and adjudicative rule of law. If you are in a country, then you observe that there is a gradual or incremental erosion to competitive elections, people's rights and freedoms, and then the rule of law. Then that tells you that there is what? Backsliding happening. It is subtle. Subtle meaning that it is something that if you are not so critical or analytical, you will not see it what's happening, because it doesn't occur so explicitly. It is not too open sometimes. Okay, we clothe it with something. So it is usually more subtle in nature, more incremental, more gradual in nature. But when you put the dots together, you put the pieces together, you can see a pattern or a trend that indeed, when we add all these sort of isolated cases together, this cannot be isolated. I mean, it is a pattern. Okay, it's a pattern that you've noticed that maybe these three or predicates of democracy are being reduced or eroded. But the question is, who causes democratic backsliding? Who causes it? Now, according to Bermeo 2016, backsliding is a state-led. It is a state-led debilitation or elimination of any of the political institutions that sustain an existing democracy through multiple processes undertaken by multiple agents. It is state-led. Now, Bermeo is saying that it is the state itself that destroys or that weakens or worsens or eliminates the political institutions that sustain existing democracy. And they use multiple processes. They use multiple agents. They can use Council of States. They can use IOCO. They can use FBI. They can use any agent. They can use even the police to debilitate, yes, to worsen or weaken, or if you like, eliminate any of the political institutions that sustain democracy. So that is Bermeo for you. That is, yes, Samuel.
Sir, please, I want to ask a question, please. Hello, sir.
Yes, please ask.
You see, they are saying that it's the state that causes this backsliding thing. But one thing too is that, sometimes we the citizens, we go beyond our limits. We sometimes try resorting to certain things that are not, most of the times acceptable in the society or maybe community. So if the state is trying to put these people in place as a maybe result of trying to respect our norms, rules and stuff, does that mean like that is not necessary? The citizens should just be allowed to misbehave any whatever they want to do in the country.
Yeah, Samuel. Yeah, so I mean, democratic backsliding, is led by the state. It is the state that leads for the whole process because it's an ordinary citizen without political power or administrative power cannot, cannot weaken the institutions of states. We have law enforcement agencies. They are the very people, they are the agents that the state or the government will use to weaken democracy. That is the tragic paradox of democracy. It is a tragic paradox of democracy because we use the same institutions of democracy to kill democracy. They don't use guns. They use the very institutions of democracy. And if you want to talk about citizens, it is not ordinary citizens or citizens who have got access to power, political power and authority. They are procured and used by the state to weaken to weaken democracy. Let's look at machinations of backsliding. You see, usually people may come to power through elections. But once they capture the political power, then they want all other things. So autocrats will come. Well, they are elected. The person is elected, he came through election, but within him, the heart that is in the body, he's an autocrat, just that he came through election. But he is an autocrat. He believes in autocracy. He doesn't believe in participation or voice of the people. So once they assume power, they start to pack the court, and they use the court as a weapon. They weaponize the court and other neutral agencies like UCO, BNI, OSP, and the rest. They neutralize them. They also buy off the media. They buy the media. They buy the private sector. So last time, a journalist came and mentioned that the government has set up a WhatsApp platform for some media personalities, for some civil society organizations, and what have you. Apparently, these are the critical elements of society who can mount pressure on the government if the government is doing something which they think that needs to be called out, and to sensitize the people. Now someone says that the government has created a platform for these people, and they are like a part of the government. They are like, if you like, board of directors or something. And if you are part of the process, how do you then criticize the regime if they do something untoward? Okay, it makes it difficult for people to critique or criticize what is happening. What happens in there, you might not know, except those who are in there. But that is how democratic backsliding occurs. the media is bought off, private sector is also bought off, or they bully you into silence or submission. They bully you. So if they can't buy you, or if you don't allow yourself to be bought, then they bully you into silence. They can use many technicalities to bully you into silence. That you can never even talk because they have a lot of things about you. Now, the tragic paradox of the electoral route to authoritarianism is that democracy's assassins use the very institutions of democracy gradually, subtly, and even legally to kill it. Now, note it very well. How democracies die. So people who want to do away with democracy, we call them democracy assassins. They don't usually carry guns. So they come through elections, like Donald Trump. He came through elections. But you see how gradually he is downgrading the democracy of US. It is reducing in terms of quality. All the institutions of state, which are supposed to be neutral and to keep the executive in check, he has ways to deal with them. That through budget cutting budgets, and a whole lot of other actions and inactions, ostensibly to weaken this. These are what we call democracy assassins. They want to assassinate the democracy of their states. And they don't use guns, they use the very institutions of democracy, like the FBI. So you see, when he sends people from the FBI or the security forces to other states where minorities live to harass people, okay? Trampling upon their human rights. But he's using the state's own institutions of democracy. The very institutions that are to safeguard the rights and liberties of the people. We use this same. In Ghana, we use the Iyoko, the Iyoko BNI and all these to assassinate gradually to sadly and legally even to kill it. Yesterday, there was a ruling by the courts, and they have used They have used legality. See here, they have legally weakened an institutions of democracy, the OSP. The Supreme Court has affirmed or ruled that the Attorney General can discontinue any case that the special prosecutor is prosecuting in court. That was the Supreme Court ruling yesterday. So if the OSP is prosecuting someone in the court, then the government realizes that, this person is part of us. Why is the OSP pursuing the person? Hey, Attorney General, go and stop the thing in court. So Attorney General can easily go and then file a null or prosecute just to cut short the prosecution of the case. So we use the very institutions of democracy to gradually, subtly, and even legally to kill it. Now we use the courts. The court has been used. The court, which is an institution of democracy, has been used to reduce the potency of another institution of democracy, the Office of Special Prosecutor. Now we have used another institution of democracy like the court to weaken the OSP. And with time, it can even kill it. Now, backsliding can occur in two ways. It can happen either in a more rapid sense. It can be more rapid, very sudden. It happens at once. And what? More revolutionary in nature. For example, yesterday, Burkina Faso was a democracy. Or let's say Niger was, Mali. We went to sleep. The next morning, you would see a lot of military vehicles, a lot of soldiers around the premises of the seat of government. And then you will see someone in military uniform making announcements that the government has been cut off and then the military has taken over. That is a typical, what military will take over. It happened in a more sudden manner, very rapid and revolutionary in nature. So that one, the country is no longer a democracy. The military seized power. That one is something you can easily notice. You can explicitly know that, oh, there has been a backsliding in, let's say, Niger, Mali, or Burkina Faso. That one is more sudden and rapid. Now, another route which we've talked about is more gradual. More gradual, and it's something that you might not even observe because it is happening in a more gradual manner. But it's like a systemic, or it's like a pattern that you are noticing. Now let's look at the elements of backsliding. There is one scholar called Nancy Bermeo, 2016. Nancy Bermeo provides three main elements of backsliding. The first one is what we call promissory coup. Promissory coup, executive aggrandizement, and then we have manipulating elections strategically. These are the three key elements according to Bermeo 2016. Promissory coup. The ladies, when we say promissory ring, what comes to mind? Promissory ring, what comes to mind? What does it mean? In fact, what does it mean? When the man gives the lady a promissory ring, what does it mean? Yes, Yankee, Padmo.
Yeah, Paul. So it means that the person is assuring you that in some years to come, he might end up getting married to you, so that you guys will be together for the rest of your life.
All right, good. So promissory means there is an assurance that is likely to marry you. That is promissory. Now let's bring the same idea to promissory coup. What does it suggest? Promissory coup. Yes. Yes, Samuelina.
Please, I think it suggests that the people are promised a change in relation to the reform.
Okay, thank you, Samuelina. There's a chat here. Let me see what the person.
Hello, Paul.
Yes, Justice.
So I was saying that promising school, it will be a situation whereby that, let's say, the civilian government is ruling though, but the soldiers and the military think that it's not doing the work well, and overthrowing trying to fix the system, the economy for the citizens.
Okay. Well, yes, I think that is closer. So promissory coup, it means that yes, Reggie Danso, yes, keep that point very well on the OSP. We will go to the Ghanaian situation, and then I want you will read out this when we get to the Ghanaian situation, okay, of democratic backsliding. Now, promissory coup, as mentioned by Justice, you see, the military will want to overthrow the government, but they will tell the people that the government is engaged in A, B, C, D, which is not good for the economy, or human rights are being abused, abused. And so we are stepping in to clean the system and then hand over power to the civilians immediately or as soon as possible. That is a promissory coup, because then they made a promise or assurance to the people that they were just coming to fix the mess and then return the country to that is promissory coup. Now, promissory coup, they frame the ouster of an elected government. When we talk of ouster, that is what? An attempt to overthrow a government. They want to oust the government. So they frame the overthrow of an elected government as a defense of democratic legality. And they make a public promise. They give an assurance to hold elections and restore democracy as soon as possible. That is what modern coup makers emphasize. They emphasize the temporary nature of their intervention, and they frame it as a necessary step toward a new and improved democratic order. But there's an irony. Now, the ladies, when the gentlemen, they give the promissory ring, do they usually abide by it? Yes, do they keep the promise?
Sir, some don't keep.
Some don't keep?
Yeah, some don't keep it.
Yes. The same applies to the coup makers who ousted the elected regimes. Some will be there for over 6 years. They keep it for more years. They keep themselves in power for sometimes more than 6 years, which is even more than an elected or term of office. Now, in many situations, elections, may be conducted, but conducted at a very later time, too late. In situations where coup makers go by their promise to return the country, they make sure that the people they value, the people who supported the regime or who hailed the regime, even if there's going to be election, the coup people or the military junta may support those who were in support of the military regime. So what it means is that they will bring their very people to get elected. Or sometimes the military leaders will themselves take off the military attire and then put on their civilian jacket and do some takashi or ways and means to win the election. Now, after scholars analyzed most of the coup which took place between 1990 and 2012, there was a dismal picture about successful or promissory coup. Few promissory coups were followed quickly by competitive elections, even though they had made that promise, and fewer still paved the way for improved democracies. So that is promissory coup. The next element, according to Nancy Bermeo 2016, is the executive aggrandizement. Executive aggrandizement. Executive aggrandizement. This one, please don't forget it. Note that once we talk of executive aggrandizement, then we are talking about a situation where the executive wants more powers. The executive wants to increase its scope. And before it can increase its scope, then it is interfering in people's rights. That is executive aggrandizement. So when the executive wants too much powers, that it will want to even weaken the very institutions of democracy, which are supposed to serve as a check on the powers of the executive. Then the executive will find ways to weaken these institutions. If it is about the leadership, then they will come, they will that is executive aggrandizement. Now, we mentioned that in liberal democracy, the hallmark of liberal democracy is to have a limited government, is to have a government or a state whose powers have been pruned. Yes, executive whose scope is limited. Whose scope is limited, and then we've given these to people in the form of human rights. But if an executive president comes to power, he says, well, me, I want more powers, and so I cannot have a limited scope. Now, they do that by trying to weaken institutions of state, which are supposed to serve as a check on their powers. We call that executive aggrandizement. Okay? When the executive wants to stretch its long arm into the operations of other independent institutions of states. A typical example happened in Turkey. We have President Erdogan, Recep Tayyip Erdogan. He rose to power in 2002. He led his party. The party was the Justice and Development Party, aka the AKP. In short, we call it the AKP party. Now, Erdogan led his party to a resounding victory in 2002 national elections. Then it attracted increasing share of the vote in both 2007 and 2011. Now, the party AKP won absolute majority in parliament, super majority, whilst the opposition had a micro minority. Now, the AKP, its strength in parliament, because it was super majority, more than 2/3. So they could do anything. Now, the strength in parliament provided the infrastructure or the weapon for quiet revolution. There was a revolution, but they didn't use gun. They used what? Quiet revolution. They were using what? The law to do a lot of damage to the democracy of Turkey. The first 2 years of Erdogan's administration, he passed over 500 new laws. First 2 years. Second, we've passed only, only one controversial, which is the tribunal, the tribunal act or bill has been passed. Well, some people will have their views on some of these, but in Turkey, government passed over 500 new laws during the first 2 years. Many of these laws undercut institutions of accountability. All these laws were to ensure that the executive or the president was not so accountable to all the institutions of democracy. He will make sure maybe he reviews the law and then will take away, those powers given to the agencies to call the executive to account for resources or their stewardship. So there were dozens of laws passed. Media freedoms and judicial autonomy became a prime site for democratic backsliding. So they passed several laws to affect the independence of the media. They passed several laws to affect the independence of the judiciary, such that there was nothing like judicial autonomy. In 2004, the government revised the penal code to allow criminal prosecution of journalists if they discuss any subject that the state deems as controversial. So, like if tribunal thing comes, well, you cannot discuss. If a court overturns certain Tamaklu's, conviction, a court of competent jurisdiction convicted the person for 10 years. Her government comes, and then, they take the thing to appeal, and then the court reverses the Supreme Court decision. The court decision, okay? The High Court decision. Now, let's say you are media, you want to discuss this matter. Then you see that the government may want to use this particular law. Criminal prosecution of journalists for discussing any subject deemed controversial by state authorities. They later came and made, a lot of series of defamation laws, both criminal and then civil. So Erdogan and his, party, his executives, they used these laws to widely silence people who were critical of the regime. Other laws facilitated the blocking of websites and the identification of internet users. You see, so that even if you write something on social media, they can come for you. if you go and you say, well, Doomsday is back, maybe this is a controversial issue, and then you are arrested, and then they are harassing you. Okay, then the court. Erdogan also affected the court. They passed laws that will make him appoint 14 out of the 17 members of the Constitutional Court, meaning he had absolute control over the system. Now, the third element of backsliding, according to Nancy Bermeo, is strategic manipulation of elections. So when they use several mechanisms, okay, there's several mechanisms or actions which are aimed at tilting the electoral playing field in favor of incumbents or the government. And the actions they use may include hampering media access. So when they make it impossible or difficult for the media to have access to to electoral data or information. Let's say it is 7th December, and then they want to hamper media access. So the media will not be allowed into polling stations, constituency, coalition centers, then national coalition centers. If they say they do not want the media to be there, clearly it should tell you something. Okay? Because democracy thrives in transparency, openness, accountability. And what prevents you from letting the media come there to inform the public? And then it means you want to do something which is bad, which is untoward, something which is unorthodox. You see, even in national elections, sometimes the media has access to the polling stations. Their results even come before the Electoral Commission's results, because the EC will be faxing their data to their regions before they are faxed to the headquarters, national. But the media houses, while the reporter is at Tichman Coalition Center, once the results are declared, he will send it to the studios, and so you will be seeing the live of reports on TV. You will see the performance of the green and the performance of the blue, okay, NDC and NPP respectively. And because there are several TV stations or channels, you can be flipping through the credible ones. Okay, you go to maybe channel 1. Okay, you see how they are sparing. You go to Joy News, and then you go to Peace, Adum. Hey, Khalid, they are all saying the same thing. The green is longer than the blue. Okay, so the EC cannot bring on a contrary report, or political parties cannot fool their supporters. When they are seeing on TV clearly that the blue is very short, then let's say their party leader will tell the people to go to the street, wear white shirt, and then jubilate. No, they are watching the TV. They see what is happening. So when the party leaders will tell you that you are in a comfortable lead, but you are watching the TV, you see what is happening. And then they will tell, oh, the EC is rigging the election. No, the EC is not rigging, because all the stations we are watching, they are saying similar thing. I mean, how can the EC alone be? So, my dear friends, the role of the media is very powerful in democracy. They help to reduce tension. Otherwise, EC will bring their report, and then the party that lost will say that, hey, EC has rigged the election, so my party people go to the street and But the people, they were watching the TV, they were also seeing, and whatever the EC said, affirms or corroborates what the media also report, and so it reduces tension. Now, another element they use is to keep opposition candidates off the ballot. They can use the court system, they can use the police, Yoko, and other investigative bodies to discredit opposition candidates. And sometimes, few months to elections, that is when they will charge some opposition leaders, simply just so they can keep them off the ballot. Let's say you are the leader of the opposition party. You are the one challenging the president. Then they bring some frivolous, prosecution hanging around your neck. They can even use the court to say something, and then they just keep you off the ballot. And then they polarize the opposition. They will not get any strong candidate to challenge the incumbent. And then, these are strategic manipulation of elections. Sometimes they can even say you are not qualified because of something, There can be some tactics they use. Sometimes if they pack the electoral commissions, they can sack all the EC bosses and bring their own, those that they can have confidence or they can be doing some secret things with. Or they might even tell you to resign. And they can, hey, Charlie, you have to resign. Otherwise, the fate, maybe the way someone was sacked, if you don't resign, you are also going to face similar things. So, well, you want the easy way around. You just resign, then they package with whoever they want. Harassing opponents. When they are harassing opponents so that they cannot even speak, they can't campaign. If you say something against the government and then they arrest you, they prosecute you, they don't want to give you bail. Even if they want to give you bail, they give you some outrageous figures, outrageous conditions, harassing opponents. Using government funds for incumbent campaign or hampering voter registration. And more strikingly, they sometimes may want to change electoral rules to favor incumbents. Sometimes they want to change the constitution. Third term agenda. They want to amend the constitution, change the electoral rules that a president can go for 3 terms. Burkina Faso and some states attempted it. I think it was in Burkina. Well, the government was able to push through the legislature, and once they were about to do something like that, the people were angry. I think they even set the parliament ablaze, or they wanted to burn the parliament. And all this culminated into the coup d'etat that you observe in these 3 Sahel countries. Changing electoral rules to favor incumbents. These are what we call strategic manipulation of elections. So these are the 3 elements given by Nancy Bermeo. What are they? Summarize them. Mention them again. What are they? What are the elements by Nancy Bermeo? Promissory coup, executive aggrandizement, and then strategic manipulation of elections. Okay, are you with me? So let's look at another more authoritative discourse on backsliding. This is by Levitsky and Ziblatt. This is a very popular framework. So most literature on democratic backsliding, you see Levitsky and Ziblatt. They wrote this work after observing how Donald Trump, his first term, the way he was going about things. So they wrote their book. Their book is on The title is How Democracies Die. How Democracies Die. You want to see how democracies die? Then they gave account of several countries where even the leader came through election. But with time, they were targeting the institutions of democracy. They were affecting people's rights and freedoms, doing away with the court system, packing the court gradually till they became what? Entrenched autocrats. And with time, the democracy what? Died. And so they were trying to give a word of caution, observing Trump won. Now, they gave 3 elements of democratic backsliding. When you see these elements, then you get to know that there is what democratic backsliding happening in the country. The first one is attacking the referees of the states. Attacking referees of the states, targeting opponents, yes, and changing rules of the game. These are the 3 elements of democratic backsliding. I'll finish next. These are the 3 elements of democratic backsliding by Levitsky and Ziblatt. And you will see that these elements, they resemble the one given by Bermeo, except that Levitsky and Ziblatt, they don't talk about a coup d'etat, because coup d'etat is too rapid, too sudden, and then too revolutionary. Okay, they focus on the gradual subtle reduction in democratic quality. Okay, now what is more striking about Levitsky and Ziblatt's framework is that it follows a process. It is a continuum. You start from step 1, or you move to step 2, and then step 3. Okay, so if leaders want to engage in backsliding, they start from step 1. Now, do you remember Erdogan? Which country? Can we find President Erdogan?
Okay.
Turkey. Now, when he came the first year, second year, the first 2 years, he passed over how many new laws? Over 500 new legislations. And you see, legislations are not passed in vacuum. Every institution of states, okay, these are established based on acts of parliament, okay? And so if a government comes and they are passing out a lot of laws, clearly, you know that they want to affect some institutions or create new institutions. For example, the OSP came about as a result of the OSP law, the OSP Act. So if a government wants to affect the OSP, then they will amend the law, or will pass a new law that will maybe render the OSP useless or reduce powers. Same with other state institutions. You can pass law to alter the way state institutions are structured. Even the powers given to them, the funding, all this, you can use legislation to affect them, such that they can be there, but they are not powerful. They are toothless, bulldogs. You have cut their powers. You've cut their funding, and so they are there. They cannot serve as effective check on the powers of the executive. So Levitsky and Ziblatt, they argue that there's step 1. What autocrats do is to target referees of the states. And I want to ask this question. When we were talking about liberal democracy, okay, my dear friends, we mentioned that liberal democracy will reduce the powers of the state and give to who? We give to who?
To the
who?
people.
To the people. Good. So it is a game. It's a match. And who are the players? The government, okay, or if you like, the state or the government and the people. These are the players. They are playing. And when two teams are playing, Argentina, Spain, you need a referee, right? Hello?
Yes, sir.
You need a neutral referee. That is not bias.
Yes.
That will not show of favoritism. So the referee is the one in charge of regulating or officiating the match. Now, same way in the democracy match, we are on the field playing. The government is one player, the people or the citizens another player or team. We have the referees of the states. Now, the referees are supposed to be the independent institutions of states, such that if your rights are trampled upon, those institutions of states, you can report your matter or your issue to, for them to help you. Let's say you have a land, and then someone is a minister, they want to take your land, okay? Or they want to take your car. As a citizen, where do you go to? Yes, what can you do? Where do you go to? Yes, Collins.
Sir, to the court.
You can go to the court. Good. Any other place?
To the police station.
The police station. Good. So there are various referees of the state. The court is a typical example. So you go to court. The Constitution says anyone whose right has been trampled upon, go to the High Court, seek redress. Or if it is a class, you can go to the Supreme Court for interpretation. So the court is a powerful referee of the states. The police is a powerful referee of the states. If people have issues, they can report to the police, okay, for them to enforce issues. The OSP is a referee of the states. The Electoral Commission, yes, they mediate elections. There are several of these. TRASH, Commission on Human Rights and Administrative Justice. The National Media Commission, all these are there. Referees of the states. Now, the step one that autocrats do is to target these referees. When they come, all they want to do is to weaken these institutions of states, just like the HIV will do. Now, when the HIV virus, when it enters the human body, what does it do first? What does it do first?
It weakens the immune system.
It weakens your immune system. That is the first step autocrats do. Once they come to power, they want to weaken the immune system of the state. These are the referees of the state. So that's step one. So they weaken the judiciary. They can sack you. If you are the Chief Justice, they will sack you. They will use any means to sack you. Then they will pack and weaponize the courts, okay? They weaponize the courts. They will pack the... And see, this morning, one renowned chief, where is this? A renowned chief, where is that? Where is that? Yes, this one. I want someone to read it. Danson, read it for me. Yes, read it. Oh, Beauty. Unmute and read it for me. Read here. Read Togbe. Okay, read this one. Togbe what? Beauty. Hello, Beauty. Unmute your mic and read. Okay.
Sir, I'm here.
Please read. Read here.
Togbe Afede.
The 14th.
SBI questioned questions continual expansion of Supreme Court without a constitutional super limit. Once
Upper limit.
open-ended appointment of judges risks serving political interests.
Okay, thank you. Danson, read it also.
Hello.
Yes, Danson, read it.
It says, Togbe Afede, the 14th. Questions continued expansion of Supreme Court without a constitutional upper limit. Once open-ended appointment of judges breaks serving political interest.
And this was made, look at the date. Add the date.
A day ago.
Sorry.
28th July 2020.
So this was, I think, yesterday. And this is a troubling situation. The way we are packing the courts, the Supreme Court, okay? This is something that the public is worried about. Let's go back. So that is targeting the referees of the state, the judiciary, law enforcement, and then regulation agencies. Very crucial. That is step one. So from step one, they go to step two, and that is target opponents of the government. Political opponents can be targeted if you say your mind, or even you criticize. If you say maybe Doomsaw is back, they can come for you. Okay. They want to kill an ant with a sledgehammer. If you speak against the regime and then they are criminal or prosecuting you, just to send a strong signal that, hey, the system is not tolerant of either these or dissenting voices or views. Now, the media that will be critical of the government, they might want to target them. They can use regulation. They can use the National Media Commission, okay, to silence critical media. Opposition media houses, they will say, oh, you have not paid your taxes, you have not done this, they can use some means to cripple you, to take you off the air. Business leaders, they can sabotage people's businesses. Your license can be revoked. Or, when you want to go and renew your license, they will say, well, we are no longer giving you. Now, simply because maybe they know you are sponsoring, you are the main sponsor of an opposition political party. And so they target you. Yes, there was a time this man, Yafo was struggling. Yafo, he struggled simply because there was an allegation that, well, he was the one supporting the then opposition party. And so the government was using state regulation to affect this business leader. And so these days, the business leaders, they are very smart. What they will do is that they will support MPP, then they support NDC. So that whichever political party wins, well, they are in business. Whichever political party loses, well, they also supported the one that came. Now, after the second step, the last step is to change the rules of the game. Changing the rules of the game. They can use legislation to change the electoral processes. They can do some constitutional amendments, and then the electoral system itself to favor the incumbent, like introducing third term in the constitution. I mentioned Burkina Faso or the Sahel countries. One of them attempted, and the people were unhappy. Okay, many jurisdictions, the government might want to change the rules of the game. You notice how Erdogan, altered many things in Turkey. And now in Nicaragua, the president was engaged in many of these for a long time. Just last week or two, he just came and said, well, henceforth, there will be no elections at all. That is what changing the rules of the game. No elections at all. And in several states, this is what happens. Togo, they've gone through that, process and all. So here, it is what, 3 steps. It is a continuum, unlike a Bermeo, which is not, step-like. Levitsky and Ziblatt, it follows what, a continuum, my dear friends. So the first step, they target referees, which are essential to protecting neutrality of the state. They use the judicial system, tax, intelligence, law enforcement bodies, regulatory agencies. Now, they use tactics such as blackmail. They can blackmail you. Okay, blackmail you. Hey, you, Yeboah-Assiamah, you are speaking against the government. Well, if you don't do this, then they can do some blackmail. They can blackmail business leaders. Okay, if you don't stop this, your consignment that is coming, we will make sure you struggle. Okay, this contract that you want, they blackmail. They sometimes can use what, bribery. They can bribe, but some people, they can bribe the judges. They can bribe, these state institutions. They can replace civil servants with loyal ones, like how we sacked Domelovo and brought maybe a loyal one, like maybe how the Chief Justice was also sacked and then maybe a loyal one was brought, okay? They replace civil servants with loyalists. They can impeach you. They can use some means to impeach you. They can frame something. They will so address and, make you wear. Then they impeach you. Then they bring someone that they like there who will support the agenda. They can pack the courts, like what Yeboah-Assiamah, just spoke about. The way we are packing the courts, that is what court packing. And sometimes creation of new institutions and then give them more powers so that the existing ones become what, useless. They render you redundant. Now, the aim is to ensure the loyalty of of these institutions. These institutions have to be loyal to the government so that the government can do whatever they want to do. No one questions them. The second step is to target opponents of the regime, opposition politicians, okay, business leaders, major media outlets, intellectuals, people who speak, on policy issues, and cultural figures like traditional chiefs. Well, sometimes when we say something, they might find ways to sabotage you. But Togo is a powerful man. They cannot sabotage him. Well, but how do they do that? They silence these by bribing them. They can bribe the business leaders. Okay, they can bribe the media outlets. Like someone said that, well, there's a government WhatsApp group, and all the powerful media people are there or something. You don't know what happens there. You and I, we are not there, so you not know what happens, there, that WhatsApp platform. Sometimes they bully you into submission. They use some means. They arrest you to Yoko. You spend like 1 week. By the time you come back, you yourself now, you advise yourself. Your wife would advise you, hey, if you don't stop this politics thing, my friend, I'll pack my bag and leave. I cannot be going through this, this torture. So, they bully you, or they co-opt you, they buy you. They can give you a concession, and then, they bring you. Say, hey, you come and say something for the Attorney General so that we don't prosecute you. So they have co-opted you. Or you have an issue pending. Okay, well, we will let this matter lie, but you have to be part of us. Co-opting. Financial concession, they give you, a contract, and then you are part of them. They give you a board chairman, like, the government came, many influential people have been giving you what? Position, appointment, CEOs. And so the kind of talk, the kind of critique that you use to criticize the government, you cannot, okay? Now you are part of the regime. And so you have been co-opted into government, into the executive, you cannot criticize again. Or they use legal means to undermine you. They use legal means, small thing, they take you to court. They take you to court, they find you, they restrict you. You don't have access to social media again. Stay off social media. Don't be talking. I mean, this is how they target the opposition. The aim is to weaken and to demoralize opponents as well. They want to demoralize. Now, by the time you come back, Charlie, you will not be strong again. No? You advise yourself. They will say that, you see, when you were arrested, you went to the prison alone. You went to Yoko. The people, they went back to their houses to chop their their wife's food. Okay? Or they went, you were the only one there. So you advise yourself. They went to chop, food. And then so, when you were in Yoko, well, maybe you were eating Gary Soakins, but the food, they went home, they were eating their fufu. And so when you come back, you advise yourself. So they demoralize opponents. Then nobody wants to talk. Now, the third one is to change the rules of the game. They may want to reform the constitution, which will give them more powers. Legislative bodies, electoral systems to consolidate. How do they do? Gerrymandering. They may want to create new constituencies. Constituency, you know how they will do, like Ayawaso West, you know that, well, sometimes it tilts towards NDC, MPP, but they know the areas that are more prone to MPP, areas more prone to NDC. So then they cut off certain portions that, well, once we've cut off this portion, by all means, all the time, this political party must win this constituent. That's what gerrymandering. You deliberately, recalibrate the constituencies to favor one political party. They sometimes may change the rules, the electoral rules. They configure legislature to ensure continued dominance of the ruling party. Sometimes the electoral systems are shaped in a manner that it delivers victory to the incumbents. Okay. Now the aim is to consolidate power. This reform ultimately allowed the incumbent to perpetuate themselves in power. So this is how, backsliding occurs, according to Levitsky and Ziblatt. My dear friends, are you with me? Hello.
Hello. Yes, sir. We
Now,
are with you.
Backsliding is occurring across several countries. India is a typical example. This year, you saw the democracy index. India has reduced further. But we, comparativists, we saw this last 2 years. Now, let's see the situation in India. How backsliding is occurring in India.
So, PKD Nambiar, the point you were making earlier about how bad really is it, because I can make these comments, Rahul Gandhi can make these comments, as Raghu Karnad was saying, that it's not an all or nothing situation. But if you look at a number of measurable metrics which indicate a decline, they do exist. And we'll put some of those up on screen. One of those, Justice Lokur mentioned himself. India has the highest internet shutdowns now in the world. It's topping the global chart for shutdowns, third consecutive year. We're just above, significantly in fact, above Yemen, Ethiopia and Jordan. That's just one instance. Look at the number of opposition leaders who've been either arrested or have been booked for charges under this government's watch. We'll put that up on the screen for you as well. It's a huge list. It's virtually actually every single opposition or non-BJP party leader in this country who faces some charge or the other, right? And that's not all. It's also the government's critics and dissenters from within civil society, whether it's those who've been jailed in the Bhima Koregaon case or those activists who were jailed because they were allegedly involved in the Delhi riots, whether it's to do with those arrested for the farm bill protests, the so-called Greta Thunberg toolkit case, including people like Indira Grover, Anand Jai Singh, Amnesty International. The list is endless, coming all the way down to Tapsi Pannu and Anurag Kashyap, who I think have been questioned now for almost 48 hours, and we know what their views are. There's also the question of judicial independence. Scholars like Gautam Bhatia have tracked what they call the rise of the executive court, where court orders are inordinately aligned in favor of the government again and again and again, whether it's Rafale, whether it's electoral bonds, whether it's Ayodhya, and so on and so forth. We are sliding in the press freedom index. All these are measurable facts.
So, my dear friends, what did you learn about the Indian situation? Tell me some of them. What is happening in India? India, democracy under threat. So it was not surprising when this year, their democracy index was, downgraded again. Yes, what are the happenings in India from the narration? What are some of the things? Hello.
Hello,
Danson?
sir.
Yes. Yes,
Hello.
Samuel.
Yeah, so the government, have been arresting some people, have been engaging in demonstrations, and then yes, and
Okay.
then he made it clear that these things are some of the indicators that reduces the democracy or their democracy.
Oh, fantastic. Okay. Apart from arresting protesters, what else did he talk about? What else? Or we should play it again. He mentioned a lot of things.
Yes, please.
Okay,
PKD
listen.
Nambiar, the point you were making earlier about how bad really is it, because I can make these comments, Rahul Gandhi can make these comments, as Raghu Karnad was saying, that it's not an all or nothing situation. But if you look at a number of measurable metrics which indicate a decline, they do exist. And we'll put some of those up on screen. One of those, Justice Lokur mentioned himself. India has the highest internet shutdowns now in the world. It's topping the global chart for shutdowns, third consecutive year. We're just above, significantly in fact, above Yemen, Ethiopia and Jordan. That's just one instance. Look at the number of opposition leaders who've been either arrested or have been booked for charges under this government's watch. We'll put that up on the screen for you as well. It's a huge list. It's virtually actually every single opposition or non-BJP party leader in this country who faces some charge or the other, right? And that's not all. It's also the government's critics and dissenters from within civil society, whether it's those who've been jailed in the Bhima Koregaon case or those activists who were jailed because they were allegedly involved in the Delhi riots, whether it's to do with those arrested for the farm bill protests, the so-called Greta Thunberg toolkit case, including people like Indira Grover, Anand Jai Singh, Amnesty International. The list is endless, coming all the way down to Taapsee Pannu and Anurag Kashyap, who I think have been questioned now for almost 48 hours, and we know what their views are. There's also the question of judicial independence. Scholars like Gautam Bhatia have tracked what they call the rise of the executive court, where court orders are inordinately aligned in favor of the government again and again and again, whether it's Rafale, whether it's electoral bonds, whether it's Ayodhya, and so on and so forth. We are sliding in the press freedom index. All these are measurable facts.
Okay, now let's go back. What are the things he mentioned? The clear
Okay, can
elements
you
of...
hear me?
Yes, Samuel.
So he made mention of opposition leaders being arrested, and then detained and stuff, and then the judicial independence too. The courts most of the time declare cases in favor of the government, the sitting government, and then also there is a highest internet shutdown in the country. Yes, and then critics from civil servants are also those civil servants who critique the government are being arrested. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. Thank you. So these are the things happening in India. That's why we caption it, democracy under threat. It's a question, because then India has been witnessing highest media shutdown. Media shutdown, and it appears almost all key members of the opposition are facing one prosecution or the other. That is harassment of opposition. Judicial independence. Almost all cases, the government wins in court. Government has packed the courts, and these, press freedom. All these are elements of backsliding. Are you with me? Okay, in Poland is also facing similar things in Poland. Okay,
This is the largest protest in Poland since the fall of communism more than 30 years ago. Hundreds of thousands are protesting in cities across the country, because the party in power here is on the verge of eliminating a woman's right to an abortion.
Nie zgadzam się, żeby rząd odbierał mi moje prawo.
Po prostu chcę żyć w godnym kraju i chcę mieć własne prawa i dlatego tutaj jestem.
At the heart of these protests are young women, those who are the most threatened by the new ruling. But there are many, many others too. And that's because these protesters aren't just concerned about the future of abortion rights in Poland. They're worried about the future of the country itself. In the late 1980s, Poland got rid of its decades-long communist regime.
Okay, so
Soon, it became a thriving democracy with a...
Let's proceed. U.S. is also facing same backsliding, democratic backsliding.
Protests to clashes between law enforcement and supporters of Black Lives Matter. The world's two largest democracies, the United States and India, are part of a global trend showing a decline in democratic policies and institutions, according to the Freedom of the World 2021 annual report by Freedom House. The Washington-based think tank focuses on democracy and human rights around the world.
The pandemic has really exacerbated this long-term democratic decline. A lot of undemocratic leaders seized on it and used it as an opportunity to consolidate power.
Freedom House's report rates people's access to political rights and civil liberties in 210 countries and territories. In 2020, 45 more countries had declining scores compared to those with improving ones, a trend that has continued for the past 15 years.
Hands up! Don't shoot! Hands up! Don't shoot!
The United States is still considered free but fell 3 points since last year, a large drop for an established democracy and mostly driven by lack of transparency under the Trump administration.
One way this manifested was the dismissal of inspectors general and the undermining of other institutions that are meant to hold government leaders accountable. But the kind of second part of this is the pandemic. It really showed this disregard for transparency. The federal government and also some state governments propagated false or misleading information. They obscured pandemic-related data and just generally caused a lot of confusion and politicized the response.
This democratic erosion is not new. The U.S. has fallen 11 points in the past decade. Noting the siege of the U.S. Capitol by Trump supporters earlier this year, on Wednesday, Secretary of State Antony Blinken underscored the need to bolster democratic institutions.
Americans are increasingly polarized, and the institutions that exist to help us manage our differences so our democracy can continue to function are under strain. Shoring up our democracy is a foreign policy imperative. Otherwise, we play right into the hands of adversaries and competitors like Russia and China.
Less than 20% of the world population now lives in a free country, the lowest since 1995, according to Freedom House. India had the biggest drop since last year. Its status declined from free to partly free due to a multi-year pattern of Hindu nationalist policies and violence against Muslim minorities. Patsy Widakuswara, VOA News.
Good. This one too, what did you gather from it? Samuel.
Yes, sir.
Yes.
So with this, let me focus on the provided the freedom of the world or freedom in the world report, which stated that the democracy of the US fell since last year. 10 points and then 11 points over the last decade. Yes.
All right. So the very institutions of democracy that are to champion democratic growth are what? Rather under strain, which will make the Secretary of State, to make a compelling statement that sustaining our democracy is a foreign policy imperative. We must do all we can to sustain it and to improve it rather than declining, which means it is a common concern, right? My dear friends, so this is an important issue happening sweeping across states, But let's look at the Ghanaian situation.
We haven't gone further than what we are and where we are today. I think we started off on a very good note. We started with basically a control.
This is Professor Yeboah-Assiamah, a very powerful political scientist. He was a professor here, University of Ghana. Then he became the executive director of Afrobarometer. Okay, so he's not an ordinary person. He's a renowned political scientist and policy analyst, executive director of Afrobarometer. This 1992 constitution that you see, these were the architects. He's written a lot on democracy. And then Center for Democratic Development, CDD Ghana, or CDD Africa. He's key member, one of the founders of Center for Democratic Development. So when he speaks about democracy in the Ghanaian context, you know what he's speaking about. He knows how the democracy was born, where we have been through, and what is happening. So, my dear friends, let's listen to Professor Yeboah-Assiamah of CDD or Afrobarometer.
We haven't gone further than what we are and where we are today. I think we started off on a very good note. We started with basically a controversial transition election, but since then, a lot of water has passed under the bridge. Electoral processes, election administration got significantly improved, made more transparent, made more competitive. The media landscape got opened up, and expansion has taken place, and there are many more voices in the media today than we could have possibly dreamt of, say, in the 80s. But the fact remains that 25 years or so down the line, Ghana remains a highly flawed democracy. It's a democracy which is increasingly declining in quality. It's a democracy whose dividends, whose very institutions and processes are increasingly captured by few elites, mainly politicians, their parties, their supporters, presidents, their family and friends and cronies, by bureaucrats, by well-placed business men and women, private sector operators, by some media leaders, by some civil society leaders, and so on. It's basically a democracy whose benefits are increasingly being reaped by the few, leaving the rest of society behind, sulking.
Okay, so that is a venerable Professor Yeboah-Assiamah, CDD Ghana, Afrobarometer, giving you the health of Ghana's democracy. Okay, I believe you listened with rapt attention. If you didn't listen with rapt attention, you have the opportunity to listen over and over again, my dear friends, so that when I ask you questions. But do you know this man? Hello?
Yes, please.
Who is this man?
The OSP.
That's a special prosecutor. Okay, good. He's the one in charge of the OSP. Now, this is one of the referees of the state. Are you aware? Hello? Right? You see their flag, Office of Special Prosecutor. He's one of the referees. Now, listen to what he had to say about his office. And then I will ask you some questions about attacking referees of the state or executive aggrandizement. Listen carefully.
Collectively, with the well-meaning lawyers who admonish me, we philosophize and wonder if our judges would do such a thing has ganged up against the flagship public anti-corruption agency to scuttle its work for whatever reason. Our musings ran along the lines of, would that not defeat the fight against corruption? Would that not put our young democracy in danger? Will the judges not stultify themselves in the process? We always end with an open-ended sigh. Sometimes a sigh of relief, sometimes a sigh of concern. May that never be the case. And personally, I do not believe that our judges will ever adopt such a dystopian stance. However, members of the press, there appears to be a developing trend of rather regressive and dismissive judicial decisions in respect of cases involving the OSP, with troubling consequences. And it seems to us that a careful examination of these outcomes portends a disturbing specter that the fight against corruption is being hampered to the disbenefit of us all.
So the OSP was so concerned that any matter that they will send to court, the court will dismiss it. It's as if the court is against the OSP, okay? And what is the work of the OSP? Is to prosecute corruption. And who are the corrupt people? These are the powerful politicians or civil servants. So the OSP will send the issue to court, and then the government or whoever will hide behind the courts to use the court to to scatter whatever the OSP is doing. And so the OSP was frustrated. And what will he do? He had to call the journalists and do a press conference. Well, Ghanaians, you gave us, this role, as a referee of the state. But the law says that whatever we seek to do, we have to send the matter to court. But when we go to the court, waters down whatever we are doing. So that's a sign of concern. Now listen to this again.
I wasn't sounding as a prophet of doom, but there is doom looming ahead of us. Should I feel frustrated and resign? I took an oath when I was sworn in. And in my life, when I take on the reins to do something, I do it to the best of my ability. Okay. I ought to say tree. Those who do not understand tree, please forgive me. They say I'm a Ankwanoma.
Okay, and that is a very, pathetic situation, okay? The OSP has gone through a lot of frustration in the previous administration. People were trying to frustrate his work using the courts. You mentioned, you realize that we learned about how states will weaponize the courts. And the tragic root of democratic backsliding is that we use the very institutions of our democracy, okay, to kill democracy, including illegal. And so the OSP, is frustrated because he's not finding, his ways. The courts appears to be frustrating his efforts or work. And, Ankwanoma, he's frustrated. Will he resign also, Samuel? Did he say he will resign?
No, please.
But what will he do? What will he do?
So please, he's still trying his best to fight it.
Okay.
I wasn't sounding as a prophet of doom, but there is doom looming ahead of us. Should I feel frustrated and resign? I took an oath when I was sworn in. And in my life, when I take on the reins to do something, I do it to the best of my ability. Okay. I ought to say tree. Those who do not understand tree, please forgive me. They say I'm a Ankwanoma.
So, he will do whatever he can. Once it is his time, he leaves and then someone else will continue, okay? But the frustration will not let him, will not make him resign. No, he will continue to do whatever he can. Once his time is up, he will go. Or if they decide to sack him, well, he will leave the scene. But this is an element of backsliding when referees of the state are being attacked using several means, including the courts. And well, you see, I showed you packing of the courts. Queen, mute your microphone. Packing the courts.
Sir,
Yes.
please, we have another class. Can we go?
Give me 1 minute, okay? I'm wrapping up, okay?
Okay.
So just as we were talking about, packing the courts, weaponizing the courts, just yesterday, what the OSP feared. Well, who sang this song? It is finished. Who sang the song? Who can sing that one? It is finished. Is it Kofi Kenyatta?
Yes, Kofi Kenyatta.
Sing for me that song.
Hey, it is finished. Nina Lasso.
So it happened yesterday. The doom that it came to far yesterday. Now the court has ruled that even any case that the OSP is prosecuting, the Attorney General can just cancel it. It can just terminate any case that the special prosecutor will initiate. Therefore, what is the essence of the OSP? Then we should just allow the AG to be doing whatever it wants. So if I want to prosecute a case involving, let's say, Owusu Samuel, and then Samuel happens to be in the good books of the government, the president will just tell the Attorney General, hey, Attorney General, go to court and then terminate the case involving Owusu Samuel. Then what are we doing to ourselves, my dear friends? So this is an article. I've shown you this article already. I'll upload it on Sakai for you to read. Democratic Backsliding and Public Administration, the Experience of Ghana, which the chief comparativist, wrote. It was published last year. All right. I have shared this one with you. This is on democratic backsliding. One of your colleagues wrote did a short video on this. I've shared with you. All right, my dear friends, thank you for your time. And this is where we end on democratic backsliding. Any question, comments? Okay. Hey, there are some chats here. Those who have class, please, you can go. Please let me answer some of these questions. Prof, how does the work of the OSC become useful to the states? Since the state lawyer AG can discontinue any case. Yes, this is the thing we are talking about. Because anyone who is being prosecuted one way or the other belongs to a certain political party. And the political party in power, okay, can use the Attorney General to go and discontinue the case. And so, everything is Yamutu. OSP, this ruling, it has killed the office of OSP. Essentially, what it means is that the OSP can only focus on opposition members, okay? Because anyone in the good books of the government, the AG can just come and discontinue the case. That is what it means. The question of judicial independence. Okay, my dear friends, thank you very much for your time. In the absence of any question, comments, today's class is successfully ended. Now let me hear those who agree. Let me hear you do yeah. Those who disagree, let me hear you do no. Yes. Yes. So yeah. So the eyes have it. So the class comes to a successful end. Then the chief comparativist says to you that thank you for your time and enjoy the rest of your week. See you next week. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Someone is playing it.
Yes, play it. I like it. I'm enjoying it. Play it before I end the class. Ankwanoma. So these are the sayings of the OSP. Yeah. Play it.